cross-platform podcast where we discuss how to solve productivity problems across platforms. I'm Augusto,
And I'm Mark Gelwix.
and today we're talking about traveling, gear, fun. I don't know. So there is a couple of things. You are traveling. I am
Mm-hmm.
traveling. I want to talk more about the evolution of what is happening with the Vision Pro. I did just a short trip, but it was a trip at the end of the day. Um, and I have a more larger trip coming up. And uh, I want to talk about the bag situation for me because, well, now that the Vision Pro is on the equation, the bags, every time you add new gear, or a lot of times when you add new gear, you start having issues with the bags and what you're going to do with this, because a bag that works
Mm-hmm.
great for this may not work great for the other things. So that's what we will be talking a little bit about your preparation
Yeah,
for your little trip.
this is little. This is truly the largest trip I've ever taken. So, and longest in not only duration, but distance. So, planning for that, a lot of it has gotten to the point of, okay, what's going along with me?
Mhm.
And in many cases, when you have that kind of mid-range trip, you're going maybe for a week or so, you're going, maybe a few hours away. Your tech can sometimes get a little bloated. You take a little extra tech just so you have it on hand. But there's a line you cross that it's too much to take. There's too much gear that would have to go. There's no reason to go to that extreme. So now it starts to come down the other side of that bell curve of how do you minimize things down to the point of being able to be as functional as you need to be, without negatively impacting the trip itself. And some of that has required the acquisition of some new tech, not substantial new tech, but or substantial in size or price, but new tech that will make the trip itself easier. But also, and this is kind of leading up to some things that we're going to be doing over the next several shows, I believe, it is warranting a heavier transition for me into being tablet based for most of my information capture and management, especially personal information. Uh, I've been I've always been bouncing around that because of sitting in the home office most of the day. I can, I have my keyboard there, I have my things. This trip is going to really encourage me to take that dive into the deep end approach into doing everything on the tablets. So between the two of us, for the foreseeable future, this is going to become a very tablet centric show. So as you go through, and as I go through my exercise with this, and as you go through yours with the Vision Pro, and I think we're going to start to discover almost a routine of this, of looking at a
Mhm.
particular need and how does it work on iOS? How does it work on Android? And that back and forth, kind of getting back to some of the original core of what cross-platform is, but also just out of necessity. I think this is a really good thing structurally for us. So anyway, new tech. I want to jump in there right while it's top of mind. One of the things that I have gotten for this trip, because we all know that luggage does not necessarily go where the luggage owner goes. Um, I got, and my trip is literally taking me to the other side of the planet. So Lord knows where the luggage could possibly go. Um, One of the things I got were the new Samsung tags, the Tag Plus. I think that's the name of it. I'll find out what it is and put a link in the chat below. But anyway, the Tag Plus is designed to allow you to do location of items, find that tag. And there's a lot of them like it. What I like about these things is, one, they are very small. Two, they do appear to be very well constructed. Three, they use ultra wideband Bluetooth, which means they use low battery power. And they're picked up by basically any other Samsung device. That's here in the States, you're like, oh, that's not too bad. There's a lot of Samsung devices out there. Yeah, but where I'm going, there's lots of Samsung devices. They're everywhere. So that network, that infrastructure really lends itself to using this particular tech. So it'll be fascinating, one, just to be able to utilize it to monitor through the process of the actual travel. But it's also a nice addition now because now it can be a standard part of the system. But I did want to talk about today first, um, do a little level set as to our tablet tech, and then let you dive in with both feet, or jump in with both feet. Don't dive with both feet. That would be painful. Jump in with both feet on where you stand right now with the Vision Pro and the other things you've got going on. So just baseline tablet tech, what I'm working with and what I will be working with in the future for this. This is a Samsung Galaxy S8 tablet. It's not the Plus. It's not the S9 monstrosity, not the Ultra thing the size of a small monitor. It is a very good portable size. I have an external keyboard for it, and it has 512 gig of storage in it through an micro SD card, and it will be the center of basically my world, at least for the next couple of weeks.
So I love the idea that you are going to tablets. As a person who has been iPad only uh, since 2013, I love the fact that you're going to tablets. Did I expect to leave tablets for Vision Pro? No. That said, the Vision Pro, uh, not perfect, but it's getting better and better into the dynamic of what I do, even to the point that I share some shows back about my bag and my camera bag. And I called the company who made my camera bag and asked for a new insert. So I could, because I cut the insert so I could put my tablets in it. But when I put the Vision Pro, I'm still, it's a new toy. I don't know how fragile it is. I want it to be well protected. And I didn't want it to put in the same compartment the keyboard, the iPad, and the Vision Pro. So I called them and
Okay.
bought another insert um, for that. And that's been the bag. And I'm now carrying with me most of the time that uh, the Vision Pro and the iPad mini. The iPad mini, I have said in this show, in many ways, is my favorite size. It's the iPad that I use the most, the iPad that I use to read. I have even come to read on the Vision Pro. My complaint is there is no Kindle application, and I leave on the Kindle. All my books are on Kindle, and I'm not going to start moving now to Apple iBooks.
I
It's
I
done.
have to admit, I have to wonder how that would work. I mean, are you thinking that it would be just like a regular window in your field of view, or would it be like
It is.
the scrolling text at the beginning of a Star Wars movie?
So you can do it both ways. Okay. I have read just to try books
Hmm.
in iBooks. Okay. It's just that the majority of my books are through Amazon Kindle, and
Hmm.
the library, we share the library. So it's with my wife, it's simple. Okay. It's going to be much more complicated to move now. And I did that many years back when the Palm Pilot, you know, and the Kindle came out, and I moved out of that, and it was painful. Okay, and there were books that I just simply decided to buy again because there are certain books that I read again that it was simply not worth it. So I'm going to wait until the Kindle app decide to show up. That said, it is very nice to read in there. And one of the things that I was unexpected is I read a couple of comics, mostly old. There's nothing really new or recent that I read,
Hmm.
but I have a couple of comics that once in a while I like to read. And I put them in the Vision Pro and I can read them in the Vision Pro, and that's very nice. Um, but the new gadget who came is a mouse. I bought the tablet, the magic pad. You cannot use a regular mouse with the Vision Pro, but you can use uh, a trackpad. And
Oh,
so I do use the
okay.
keyboard. Okay, I have the keyboard. I have a keyboard called the iClever that you can fold. It folds very, very tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it's here on the side. Okay, and you basically, if you are watching the video, you will see it expand. It
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of my days on the Pan Pilot. I have one like
Oh yeah.
this.
It's very similar to, matter of fact, I still have that keyboard in a drawer somewhere. Oh.
So I bought that one, and that is, the small keyboard or the use of Siri. It works for very little things, but if you're going to
Mm-hmm.
type longer, it doesn't. Okay, so I like the idea of the keyboard, and then now I add the trackpad, the Magic Trackpad from Apple, and you know, um, I was reluctant because I said, well, I can tap. There are certain things that the trackpad helps you on the
Mm-hmm.
browsers, for example. If you want precision, there is still more precision with the mouse. It's still, I don't know if it's my eyes uh, or the hardware. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
even that you get a lot of precision. Okay, if you want to expand a window in PowerPoint or Keynote, you need a mouse. My
Mm-hmm.
fingers are not that good. Same thing with Excel. Same thing with numbers. So it's been a very good one thing that I was unable to do on the Vision Pro at the beginning was a good weekly review. Not because of the
Okay.
environment, but because in the weekly review, okay, you open your task of choice and you're moving things around. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For grab, if you want to mark done, no issues. Okay. If you want to move it, with keyboard commands, no issue. But if you want to drag and drop, the drag and drop, again, it could be neat, but it's not
Now,
that perfect. Yeah.
are you doing your weekly review in Noseby? Is that it, or is it Todoist?
So I have both. Okay,
Okay.
depending the division of the company, there's some things that
Mm-hmm.
are on Todoist, there's some things that are in Notepad. So I do both. Both work great. What my issue was that drag and drop, add things. Because for example, when you do capturing, you're capturing the inbox. Okay, and then
Mm-hmm.
when you are doing processing, that drag and drop really was missing for my uh, thing. So coming from the Vision Pro and having it there, okay, and then needed to move it to site, drag and drop in another device, that was not practical. So I decided to buy the trackpad. I'm very, very happy. Same thing for mind maps. Okay, I love the fact that I can expand the mind maps to a massive size, but drag and drop, you can't beat the trackpad, okay? Or at least my fingers cannot beat the trackpad. So for
Mm-hmm.
things like that, it's been fantastic. I have now a mind map that is going to be that I'm finalizing for a project that is going to be print to be put it here in the wall behind me. That
Okay.
is going to be is the first time I'm going to print a mind map in a 9 by 9, so nine letter size sheets by 3 by 3.
Oh, okay.
It's
So it's,
going to be but when you look at it in the Vision Pro, it is this massive humongous thing. So that's been a very geeky exercise.
no,
But
that's cool.
um but it's been very interesting, to see how this device has come into replace my use of the iPad
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of things, and how well those two things, or the keyboard and the mouse, really allows you to move really, really fast with everything.
Yeah, this it's similar to what I'm dealing with the travel planning because one, I've had to remind myself that every time you figure out a piece of tech or the tech that you're taking, you always have that little cloud of peripherals that have to go with that piece of tech. So whatever that, whether it's the pocket computer, your PDA that's actually a phone, or your tablet or whatever, it's it's all those extra things. So the first question is, what peripherals are going to go that overlap between the two? And
Mhm.
by doing so, I can reduce the number accordingly. Second, what are the limitations of each of those peripherals? And I'll give you a perfect example. The flight is I keep saying like 15, 17 hours. Some once it gets past 12 hours, it's just when the plane stops. So these are the Buds Samsung Buds Pro 2, whatever. Their
Mhm.
branding needs work. But anyway, these are the really good ones. I like these. I love them. They work great. They sound great. They have active noise canceling. Terrific.
That on the plane, that is
Oh, oh,
fantastic.
they absolutely. Problem is they only have 5 hours per bud. So, and
Mm.
then you got to put them back in the case. So in a regular flight, cross country flight across the US, you'd be good. Not an issue. Not going to cut it. They're going with me, but not going to be enough. What I have is I've got a set of Soundcore over the ear headphones that have active noise canceling that have 40 hours of battery life and a headset jack, which unfortunately my tablet does not. I have to take a dongle with me for that. Um, but that will offset that particular issue. But if you're watching the show, you can see the difference in size between the two. I mean, I can put the Samsung earbuds in one of the ears of the headphones. It's a scale and size difference that has to be managed in that kind of travel planning. And this, again, is unfortunately one of those times where the overlap of peripherals doesn't quite get there because this set of large noise canceling headphones still uses a micro USB charging cable. So I have an extra cable that has to go along with the rest. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, that's a minor issue. Um, the biggest thing is connectivity. What things are you going to take so that when you have connectivity, you can use? Difference is this trip is 17 hours without connectivity or 15 hours or whenever the plane
Ooh.
stops. Yeah,
Mhm.
there isn't Wi-Fi there on the plane. So now it's going to be okay, what works in offline versus online, what will sync, what won't, and how do I balance all those pieces together? That's going to be that's been an interesting exercise so far, looking at what has to be downloaded, what, just things to keep me entertained and informed and working on things, whether it's note-taking software or whether it's YouTube playlists. And how are they going to be stored on the device and what's going to be done? So it's a fascinating exercise, especially that I don't have the benefit of a laptop going with me. So it'll be and I can admit there are even more limitations around Android tablets than there really are around iOS. There are application limitations that are a little bit more obvious on Android than they are on iOS. So it'll be an interesting exercise across the board to see how this works. I'm trying to think other new tech that I've got as part of this equation. We talked a couple weeks ago about battery packs and charging packs
Mhm.
and things like that. Went and got another one. This one's a magnetic back because I have a Samsung one. It doesn't have a MagSafe chart or a MagSafe ring on the back of it, so I had to get a slightly different one. But one that would act as a stand as well as a magnetic battery to be able to hold it on there. This again becomes part of that technology conversation. Yes, it'll charge the phone fully. It'll do a nice job. It'll stay on the phone. I'm planning to shoot a lot of video and photos while I'm there. That is
All right.
absolutely my intention. So part of what has to be figured into the equation is, will I have enough power during the course of the day to shoot all the stuff I want to shoot, to capture all of it? Will I kill my phone in that process? The other part is getting the stuff off the phone. We are often easily swayed by the fact that, oh, we'll just push stuff up to the cloud. We'll just move stuff that way. Well, if I'm shooting 4K videos on my phone, that's a lot of cloud stuff in a very short period of time. So partially what's going along as well is some external SSD drives to be able to offload video files from this primary capture device. The upside is now I'm able to offload from the phone and then access that as a storage drive with the tablet to work on things
Ooh,
like video editing and photo edits and all, and clean them up in downtime. So without having to do it on the phone itself. So that'll be an interesting exercise too, to see where that line crosses, how easy it is, what the applications allow versus what the actual physical hardware technology allows.
right.
But this is something that I think people, and you bring this up all the time, and I think on the iOS side, it's easier to have this conversation than it is on the Android side, is to how much can a tablet do for you as a supplemental replacement, actually full standing part of your system. On the Android side, that conversation is much harder to have because Android just still to this day struggles with that for some reason. Their tablet implementation just hasn't quite gotten there. It's close. It's really close. And with the right apps, you can do the right things, but it's still a struggle.
Yeah, I think on that sense, um, the little by little proximity between iOS and macOS, and the fact that you can share some apps one way and the other, I mean, the iOS on the macOS, okay, it has helped to make that more powerful. But then I will bring, as a complaint, okay, for many of those um, web applications, there is no reason why they don't work, you know, offline. And and that's something that Android, for no reason, in my opinion, has allowed to happen because there is no reason why. It's not a matter of OS.
Mhm.
It's not a matter of developers. It's not a matter of power on the chipset or the hardware. It's a decision. It's a corporate decision that I don't understand.
Well,
I, you know,
I don't know that I'd say it's necessarily a corporate decision. I think it's one that the market has truly driven a choice. And if we think about it this way,
possible.
as a developer, if I'm writing an application or creating code for something on the Android side, I'm going to write that code in a format and layout that works best on a phone. Why? Because the tablet footprint is not there to warrant that second round of code modification to optimize for that tablet layout. On iOS, I don't know how it works, structurally. If you create for the phone, how does it translate over the tablet? But I do know that you have to make UI and design changes and decisions for a tablet format that you don't have to do for a phone format, primarily because you've got more of a likelihood of using stuff in landscape and portrait than you do on the phone. You don't do a lot of stuff on landscape on the phone. I mean, you consume stuff, but doing stuff, and if I'm completely wrong, please have, people tell
No,
me
no, no,
this,
no.
but I don't think you make that adjustment, which means that there's certain design changes that you don't have to implement unless you're writing something to work on both.
And I think that's where having control on the hardware part,
Hmm.
it's where Apple have a massive advantage that they have, very well
Absolutely.
succeed at it. Same way with as they did with the Mac OS.
Hmm.
It's not that the Mac OS has always had an advantage over Windows, and it's the fact that they control the hardware. So they can make sure that the stuff is compatible. When you go to the Windows side, okay, now you need to add an unlimited number of drivers, unlimited number of providers, unlimited number of pieces. And all that make difficult the hardware, make difficult the software, make difficult the interaction with that. And I think in Android it's similar. It has a similar
Yeah.
issue.
So here's a good example of it. And this is one of those things where you can immediately see the frustration that a user gets into on the Android platform with a tablet that would deter them from pursuing it further. It's a very simple application. Let's take the Facebook app on Android. The Facebook app on Android on the phone works fine, does a good job. It's far from perfect, but it works. You go to use it on an Android tablet, it locks itself into portrait mode.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I have my tablet set up with a keyboard, you don't often set up a tablet in portrait mode with a keyboard. More often than not, it's in landscape.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have that as an option. Android forces it, well, the Facebook application forces it to go to that portrait mode, which makes it useless if I've taken the 10 minutes to get everything set up with my mouse and my keyboard and everything else, and I'm doing everything else. Now, how do you get around that issue? Well, Samsung Dex, for example, is one of the ways to get around that. Because you kick your tablet into Dex, and then it thinks it's a computer. And now when you open Facebook, you can open Facebook in a portrait-sized window on your tablet. But you're not offsetting the failure of the application to recognize that Android is more than just phones. All you're doing is mitigating that particular problem. And that's a workaround that in most cases would deter somebody from saying, yeah, I can use my Android tablet for everything. There's too many steps to get to that same point. Now on iOS tablets, have you run into apps that will only work in one alignment, that you can't flip sideways? Or is that kind of a standard design thing, that if it's on the tablet, it's got to work in both?
Like anything, I'm sure there is an app. I cannot think on any that will not allow me to go. I have actually the opposite thing that you have. I like my tablet on portrait.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't like to work on landscape. Okay. I don't like to work like the laptop. On my tablets, I put everything on portrait. On the Vision Pro, I put everything on portrait. Unless it's navigating the web, everything
Mm-hmm.
else goes in portrait mode. And I can't not think on one application right now that I will say, oh, that application do not work in portrait mode.
See, partially why I'm beating the drum on this portrait versus landscape mode thing, partially it's not a choice. For example, what I'm holding up now is the keyboard that magnetically attaches to my tablet. Well, that keyboard will only attach in landscape mode.
Correct.
It only works that way, and it uses pogo pins to actually provide the connection. So it's not like it's a Bluetooth keyboard where I could just put the tablet in a different stand. The advantage of this is this keyboard is part of a case that goes around the entire laptop that I then don't have to worry about carrying anything else with it if I want to take a keyboard with it. I can just literally flip it around behind it or pull it off at any time. But I am limited to it being just in that one position. So it's that give and take that we still have within the tablet space of, well, you can do it this way or you can do it that way, but you don't have the option to choose both to what's the best situation that you have. So that's a bit of a struggle point. This is like a
the
first
same
world
thing.
problem.
But the same thing happened if you use the iPad Magic Keyboard. They forced you into that. That's the reason I stopped using that one, and I said that was thank you to a discussion we had on Personal Productivity Club where somebody said that. I said, yeah, why I have the larger iPad, the 12.9, and I only use it on when I use it on before I make the change of the keyboard. I always use it on half screen, so I split the screen in two, so it looks like two
Hmm.
portrait mode screens. I was like, I would love to do some things on this larger screen, but on the portrait, why I don't? I say, oh, because the keyboard forced me exactly as you're describing. That
Hmm.
is there. And that was when I went online and bought the same. I used this Bridge keyboard. Uh, Bridge is a company who they're bringing it back. I hope they bring back the keyboard. So far, they have bring some of the other stuff. I hope they bring the keyboards back because their keyboards were very, 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 very good. But I basically went bought another bridge, and then now I can use any of them on portrait mode, and it works fantastic for me.
Yeah, and that's really, I think part of the discussion, especially around this whole peripheral cloud, is thinking about the work and the things that you want to do with the device. What peripherals are going to allow you to work within its limitations to get the maximum result. Like I said, I just flip the tablet into Dex, and when I flip it into Dex, that problem goes away.
Mhm.
It's not perfect, but it absolutely works. Now, the upside is I pick up a Windows small W, windowed environment where I can have multiple apps running on the screen at the same time within that tablet. I can use a Bluetooth mouse with it and have that tablet. There's a trackpad on the keyboard. So I pick up all of that functionality. At that point, the only limitations I run into are how the apps are written and how the apps are not, in many cases on Android especially, the apps are not written to be full applications.
Right,
They still have that sense of being filler apps and kind of providing mobile functionality in many cases rather than providing actual functionality. So that becomes part of that struggle. And that's exactly one of the things that we're going to be looking at over the next several shows as we get into some of these different conversations around, well, tablet level task management, tablet level note taking, tablet level video editing, all of those things. What can you do and what are the limitations that are being forced upon you? And is it worth doing? I honestly can't think of very many things that aren't worth at least trying on a tablet on the Android side. I think tablets have gotten, especially the Samsung tablets, they've gotten to the point where there's no question the power's there, the capabilities are there. Just a matter of, can you work within the boundaries and do the applications that you're running have artificial boundaries?
right. So,
So go ahead.
so as one of the things, and I was saying, when there's a couple of small travel for me, not what you are doing, but one of the things with the weather is starting to get, when it's cold, I stay here in my office, okay, and I tend to move outside very little unless it's needed. Okay, I am not a great um I will not sit outside and work in the cold. That's not happening. But as the weather start getting good, and we have had a couple of very nice spring
Mhm.
days already, my office turns mobile again. Okay, and I start moving a lot more. And it is interesting because, well, we have, this elephant in the room called the Vision Pro, and what is being meaning for these couple of days. Okay, do I really want to take the iPads, or do I want to take just the Vision Pro? And the Vision Pro is what is becoming as my really main device. My iPad mini is the backup for everything, because that's really my notebook, is where I take notes, or, you know, I it's always with me. If Apple will allow me to get rid of my cell phone, I will get rid of the cell phone and just have the iPad mini. It's just that
Mhm.
the Apple Watch and a bunch of other things require the phone to exist. Otherwise, you cannot synchronize them. Uh, but but that has me now making changes. Okay, and what happened if I bring, coming to the trips? Do I'm going to just take the Vision Pro and the iPad Mini, or do I really need to take other things with me? And if I take other things, what is the bag that these other things are going to come?
Yeah.
And it gets interesting. I have a project. I'm going back to college um, for for a project next August. So it comes that okay, when how will this technology play into this? Okay, what is going to be? The last time I went to college was a long time ago, so my memory of college is different. From when I was very young to what I'm going to do now,
Oh
and
yeah.
how you're going to approach college is different. But you go back to the same question: what is the technology that you are going to bring? Okay, I
Hmm.
mean, I know it's not going to be the Vision Pro. I don't see any teacher in the right mind allows you to sit you in there. Even that it would be nice, I will be able to see you, record you, and all that. But I don't see that's going to work very
No,
well.
no, I cannot see them passively allowing you to sit there in your ski goggles. They
That
might be
said,
hesitant.
but I'm going to say when I went to college, um, laptops were still expensive.
Yeah.
Uh, and not everybody had one. And I actually, my device was not a laptop, was a Palm Pilot. That's where I took notes with the keyboard,
Hmm.
and they were not quiet keyboards at the time, as you may remember. If you type fast enough,
Hmm.
so that's all has changed. Now you can take keywords that really you can type, and nobody will know that you're typing. So
Right.
um, it's going to be very interesting. But it coming back to okay, what is the preparation that we are going to do as all these things are coming, and what is needed for you? And as I have asked this question before in the show, when do you plan? Because it's not to add the new bag, the new device, the new okay,
Hmm.
or wait until the travel. It's not, I know as a fact, because I know you, that it's not that you went to Samsung, and buy the tag just because, okay, like, great, I found the excuse to buy the tags, okay?
Hmm.
They find the excuse, the tags will have been on your phone before, okay?
Hmm.
It was the other way around. It was, okay, as I'm planning this trip, what's coming, what's not coming, how I'm going to start
Hmm.
solving the problems that you can predict that you are going to find. Okay, so you only need to solve the ones that you cannot think in advance.
Well, let's take a perfect example of that. And you're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of these things have been identified through experience and through shorter trips and through other
True.
interactions and activities. Um, I I may be a little disingenuous when I say I am not taking a laptop with me because I am not taking a physical laptop with me. However, I am taking remote access software to allow me to access my laptop from anywhere in the world. And it will be up and it will be running while I'm gone. So I will still have access to actually multiple Windows-based machines, just not physically with me. So
Right.
to not create the impression that I'm completely leaving one world behind for this, it's more of, can this device do all the things I need it to? And when it can't, can it get out of the way? And I think that's going to be the bigger exercise. Things like the tags, things like the charger, things like the headphones, those all have multiple facets and advantages to them. I mean, the tags, for a perfect example, I have one on my keychain now. So if I ever lose my keys, I can find them. I have been using the Tile Wallet Thin, the Tile Slim uh, insert in my wallet for
Mm-hmm.
a couple years now. And just about 2 weeks ago was the first time I've actually thought to use it because I had misplaced my wallet in the house. And I went to use it, and it was just old enough that the audio would not play on the tile. I could still use the locator and I finally tracked down my wallet, but the audio wouldn't play. I'm like, okay, so this thing has gotten to the point now where it needs to be replaced. But that's a limitation because it can't tell me that the audio doesn't work because it technically still works. It's still recognizing, it's still finding it. So all its systems are. So that has to be part of what is the long-term use of this tech, and am I actually going to use it over and over and over again? And a lot of this stuff, yeah, it becomes a daily piece of this. I have that confidence in it. But again, it's those limitations, and I'll call out another limitation that I've talked about in the past. I'll go back to these earbuds. Love these earbuds. These earbuds can be found by my phone. They can be tracked down if I misplace them. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool. They can be found if the case is open. The case is closed. It doesn't send out a signal, so it can't find them. That's just the way these work. So it's like, so what's the point?
So if you have them close
If I have them
in the
closed
bag,
like this, it can't find it. There's no signal being sent out. But if it's open, it can find each one of the earbuds and it can find the case. But if I close it, it doesn't. So
okay.
this again is one of those design limitations where it's like, okay, now that's a big leap. I mean, I have the slightly older version here. Great design difference. If you see, they're two white square boxes. Um, the old version doesn't offer anything like that. There's no location for it. There's no ability for it to track it that way. Um, the new ones offer a better option there. But again, that's one of those limitations. You're like, that's why I want to do it. That's why I want to have it, is to be able to get around that issue of misplacing it. Because it's not something that it's just, if I misplace that, it's not like I misplaced a $10 mouse.
Right.
That's a substantial investment that's small enough that if it goes missing, I'm not going to be happy. So that said, looks like we've got a long tablet journey ahead of us. You're well on yours. I keep jumping on and off on mine, but I think mine's going to become much more prominent over the next
Well,
couple of months.
but before we go to the next one, you know,
Mhm.
one of the interesting things, I was talking to a client this week, and he had the following issue. He got a call. Okay, he works on IT. He got a call, and uh, he did not have the corporate laptop that he needed.
Okay.
Okay, but he had his personal phone, and he is being reluctant to add corporate uh, technology into his personal phone. And I'm not disagreement to this point. Okay, that is
Not
a
at all.
difficult decision. Okay, so but my question to this person was like, okay, why you don't go to your cell phone company and buy a second phone? Okay. In this particular case, this person make enough income to afford $100 times 12. Okay, and have the corporate phone. Okay. Instead, what happened was this person needed to, it was big enough as a problem, okay, that he needed to leave the restaurant that he was. So he went home to look for the corporate device. And
Hmm.
this is where the tablets and the phones are fantastic. And not that I was that young when this happened, okay, but this remind me that there is a comment, on the early David Allen's things when you talk about productivity, and he shares that he changed his call list from at call and at mobile phone because there were certain calls that he just wanted to do in his cell phone. And the reason was he wanted to, don't need to be in the office, don't need to be, it could happen anywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing that we need to think about these technologies, especially when we think on tablets, you know. And you begin this show talking about, oh, I'm taking an S8, not an S9, not a big
Mm-hmm.
one, not a, this is my size. Okay, you didn't use those exact words, but what
No,
you
that's
basically
exactly why I
described
have it.
was, this is the size that works for me. And that is something very, very, very important when we start playing with tablets. When you go to the iPad world, there are 3 or 4 sizes. Which one
Mm-hmm.
is your size and why? Okay. And I can tell you, okay, that in many cases, the answer is you should have two. Okay. In the moment you start getting that tablet into your really day to day rotation, you will find that it's very useful to have two, one on two different
Mm-hmm.
sides, one that comes to replace the proverbial laptop, and one that is really that small tablet that you carry with you everywhere. Because the thing is, for some people, me, okay, I'm in that list. I have clients who, you know, I wrote that book called iPad Only, and I've been coached many clients into go into that tablet lifestyle, mostly with the iPad for obvious reasons. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I have other set of clients who has a vision that I don't. Okay. And they go phone. And I have clients who are iPhone only. Okay, their phone they have a laptop in the office, and as you were describing in the show, they connect remotely via
Mm-hmm.
software to those laptops when they need something that only the laptop can do or that they cannot find, and they want to use the laptop for some reason. They have a phone, but for most people, the size of the tablets are better for business and for operation than the phone. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where you need to look at this tablet. And I know we will discuss this, you know, when we
Yeah.
come back from the break, but that's something very, very important to think. When you think on the tablet, you need to think, what are you replacing? Are you
Yes.
replacing the phone, or are you replacing the laptop? Or are you looking for a device in between? Neither answer is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very, very important to understand what that plays. Okay, there are things that I will love to do on the larger iPad that I will never try to do on the little one, unless that's the only iPad I have available. If I'm going to play on a mind map, okay, I want the largest screen that you can humanly provide me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's very, very, very important. The other thing that is very important is the software, Android as well as iOS,
Yes.
is different. Okay, I
Worlds different.
and that's very, very important. A lot of people, and we will discuss more as we get into
Mm-hmm.
this. A lot of people don't know. They think, well, a tablet is a larger phone. No, 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 no. It is not. The software capabilities of a tablet are
Mm-hmm.
very different than the software capabilities of your phone. And that's by design from Apple and from Google.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's, I mean, one of the applications that I use all the time, OneNote, a perfect example of that. Um, it works differently, desktop, phone, and tablet. The experience is different. The functionality is different. The things that you can actually even do, period, not just user experience, but just flat out features that are available, differ by that platform. And you have to decide what's going to work and what isn't going to work. And can you work within those limitations? It's with that particular application, which is a struggling point that I have, I find those limitations can be daunting. Now, for many of the other things, if you look at applications that you go, okay, where am I going to use it and how am I
Mhm.
going to use it on those things? So, for example, if it's an application that's going to work on your phone and your tablet, let's say it's written for just iOS or just Android, great. Are you going to be doing capture primarily on your phone or primarily on your tablet? Well, if you can answer that first question, that really defines on how the functionality needs to work on one or the other.
Mhm.
Are you going to use your phone or your tablet primarily for consumption of information from that app? Again, different experience. Reading on a phone and reading on a tablet are two different worlds. I mean, I was perfect
And
example earlier.
that is, and I don't know if it's that I'm getting older and
Mhm.
my eyes are failing me more than what I care to admit. Okay, but I can read on my iPad Mini for hours of hours of hours,
Mhm.
while I cannot do the same on the phone.
Yeah, I can read on the phone just fine, except for one circumstance. And it has nothing to do with books or anything. If I'm reading web articles, and let's say, for example, you go into maybe Flipboard or Pocket or whatever, um, those are specifically Pocket. Pocket's a good place. Instapaper, good applications for that because you're just dealing with the text.
Yeah.
If you're trying to read a web article that takes you to a site, the amount of mobile advertising that gets in the way, you will see blocks of text that are less than the size of a business card intermixed with ads and ads and ads. And it's extremely inconvenient, I have found, to do a lot of that type of reading on there. I will much rather move that to another application and read it on, especially if I'm going to do a lot of reading, off of the tablet
Mhm.
and do it from there. But earlier today, for example, I was reviewing an administration video on YouTube, and I had the video. I did a split screen on the tablet and put the video up top for the top quarter of the screen, and the bottom three quarters were Samsung notes, so I could handwrite my notes based on the video. So I had the two, top and bottom, and just let the video play and just take the notes and pause as and that was extremely effective. Is it doable on the phone? Yes. I can duplicate that same thing. Is it practical? Well, for me, not so much. As I said, it is doable, but it's not optimal. And that's where I think we really need to look at, where do these things fit in? And are we willing to adjust the work that we're doing to optimize around these particular devices? And tablets are a perfect example of one of those few tools that you have that make you think about how you're going to utilize it. Because
Yep.
with a laptop, you will make it do whatever you need it to do. You will find the software, you'll move stuff around, whatever. You'll find a way to make it work. With your phone, you just won't do it there. But your tablet looks like a laptop, wants to act like a laptop, so, but when it doesn't truly be a laptop, that's when you can get frustrated with it. And that's where I think a lot of this exercise is going to come in over the next several months, actually.
Yep.
So that said, anything else going on non-tablet related right now?
I cannot think on anything else right now.
Yeah, for me, like I said, the big thing is the trip right now. And from an application standpoint, actually, the big thing is I am jumping in with both feet into Samsung Notes, which is the Samsung note-taking application. Specifically because of how it works on the devices, I'm going to be using it as my primary note-taking application while I'm traveling. I have OneNote, I have the others, but this is one that I think within this particular ecosystem works best. There are other apps
Yeah.
out there, and we'll look at those. I definitely want to take a time for us in the future to say, okay, note taking on iOS, what are the best tools? Text and handwritten. On Android, what are the best tools? Text and handwritten, and be able to do that comparison. But for right now, I have to clear out a lot of that flotsam of bouncing around and say, okay, what's going to work best? So right now, it's going to be Samsung Notes for a while.
Yeah, it is interesting because there is an application on iOS called Day One. It's a journal application, but you can
Yes.
include pictures and all
Hmm.
that. And one of the things that for what you are going to do in this trip that is very cool about it is you can go document it, take pictures,
Hmm.
all that. And then at the end, you can send them to them and say, print a book. And then they will
Yeah.
print a book, a color with the pictures and all that, and have it as a memory for the trip.
Hmm. Yeah, that particular piece of the trip, because of the volume of pictures I'm planning to take and videos I'm planning to take, that's going to be a post exercise. I've done that through Google Photos before, utilizing their tools. Printing a lot of these photos is definitely something I'm going to want to do in some way, shape, or form, because I'm starting to get more of that old school mindset. How many photos have we taken that we will never see again because they're not printed, that they're lost in the digital clouds?
Right.
And
Mhm.
that's something that I think we need to be more cognizant about. So I'm trying to do that very thing of going through and pulling those things out. That said, it will be nice to be able to do the photo editing and the digital darkroom work on the tablet way more so than it is to do on the phone. It's doable on the phone. It's very doable on the phone. But that that broader real estate and the nice display on the tablet. And I think here's the thing for anybody who's listening. If you're looking at a tablet, especially on the Android side, the one feature that you want to splurge on is the display quality. Don't go cheap on the display. If you have to cut back on memory, if you have to cut back on power, whatever, that's fine. Don't go cheap on the display. Remember, tablets are basically just a monitor with all the electronics shoved in the back.
Right.
So this is the kind of thing, it's that optimal size. You want the best quality you can because it will make the experience so much better. So So yeah, it'll be fun to go through the exercise. I'm actively looking forward to this. Not so much with any travel trepidation or technology panic of getting over there and saying, "Oh, I don't have this," or "Oh, I don't have that." If I need anything, I can get it. It's not like I'm going to the jungles of Borneo or anything like that. So
No, but it will be very interesting because, as you described, this is a different trip
it is.
than your usual trip, and it is as I described with a big difference. Obviously, now that the spring is coming, I will start being getting mobile again, and I love to
Hmm.
be able to go outside and to go here and there. So that change, and even that, yes, it is true. Every year spring comes, and every year summer comes, and every year falls come, and I go out. The gear has evolved, the gear has changed, and therefore some of the things that I want to carry or not carry have changed.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Well,
Well,
with
I
this,
got travel planning to continue on. So
good luck with that. But for our listeners, follow us where you like to listen to podcasts, like us, or subscribe to us and leave us a review. Remember, you can interact with us in personalproductivity.club. We are Augusto Pinat and Agowitz, and see you next time on your favorite device.